Let me tell you something that I think a lot of people are afraid to say out loud. Being a fan of something, truly, deeply, emotionally invested in something, is not embarrassing. It is not childish. And it is not something that only happens to people who have nothing else going on in their lives. Some of the most intelligent, emotionally complex, and hardworking people I know are dedicated fans of something. In my case, it is K-pop. And today I want to talk honestly about why that attachment happens, what it means psychologically, where it can go wrong, and why I think understanding it matters more than judging it. This is going to be a real conversation, not a lecture, not a clinical breakdown full of terms you need a dictionary to understand. Just an honest look at something millions of people experience, but very few people actually explain properly. Let us start at the beginning. Why do people become emotionally attached to K-pop idols in the first place? The simple answer is that human beings are wired for connection. We are social creatures by nature. We need to feel like we belong somewhere, like we are seen, like there are people or things in the world that reflect something about who we are or who we want to be. When real life does not provide enough of that, and for a lot of people it genuinely does not, we find it in other places. Books, fictional characters, sports teams, celebrities, and yes, K-pop idols. K-pop is uniquely designed, and I mean that very literally, to create emotional connection. The industry behind it is not accidental. Groups are carefully constructed with different personality types, visual styles, and roles, so that almost any fan can find at least one member they feel drawn to. The content is constant. Behind-the-scenes videos, reality show formats, live streaming sessions, social media updates, fan meetings, fan signs, personal letters included in album packages. All of it is built to give fans the feeling that they actually know these people, that they are not just watching a performance, but participating in a relationship. That feeling has a name in psychology. It is called a parasocial relationship. Parasocial means one-sided. The fan feels genuine emotion, genuine loyalty, genuine care towards someone who does not know they exist. This is not unique to K-pop. People have parasocial relationships with actors, athletes, podcast hosts, YouTubers, and any public figure they follow consistently. But K-pop accelerates and intensifies it in ways that few other entertainment industries do, because the volume of personal content is so high and so deliberately intimate. Now, parasocial relationships are not automatically unhealthy. Most fans understand on some level that the idol does not actually know them. They enjoy the content, they feel good when their favorite group does well, they find community with other fans, and they move on with their day. That is normal fan behavior. That is actually one of the genuinely beautiful things about fandom. It gives people a shared language, a shared passion, a reason to connect with strangers who become friends. The K-pop community has brought together people from countries, languages, and backgrounds that would never have intersected otherwise. That is real. That is meaningful. But there is a darker layer, and that is what I want to talk about honestly. For some fans, the parasocial relationship stops being a supplement to real life and starts replacing it. And this is where the psychology gets more serious. Loneliness is one of the most underreported drivers of extreme fan behavior. Not just casual loneliness, but the deep, persistent kind that comes from genuinely not having enough meaningful human connection in your daily life. When you feel unseen in your real relationships, when your social circle is thin or painful or non-existent, the parasocial bond with an idol can fill that space in a way that feels very real. You wake up and there is new content. You feel sad and you put on a live stream and suddenly you feel less alone. You are going through something hard and you hear a song that feels like it was written for exactly what you are experiencing. That comfort is real, even if the relationship itself is not mutual. I can speak to this personally, at least in part. I live alone. I do not have a large social circle in my daily life. I work from home, and my interactions with people are mostly professional. In that context, having something like K-pop, something I am genuinely excited about, something that gives me something to look forward to, is not a symptom of a problem. It is part of how I manage an otherwise very solitary life. I think a lot of fans would recognize that honestly if they let themselves. The issue is when the loneliness runs so deep, or the real-life relationships are so painful that the fan starts to lose the distinction between the parasocial and the actual. When they start to believe, on some level, that the idol is truly connected to them specifically. When they feel genuine betrayal or heartbreak at news that objectively has nothing to do with them, like an idol being in a relationship, changing their appearance, or leaving a group. This is where the ownership mentality comes from, and it is one of the most complicated dynamics in K-pop fandom. Some fans, particularly those who have spent significant amounts of money on albums, merchandise, concert tickets, fan meeting entries, and streaming, start to feel a sense of entitlement toward their idols. The logic, even if it is not fully conscious, goes something like this. I have invested in you financially and emotionally, therefore I have some claim on your choices, your image, your personal life. This is not unique to K-pop. You see it with sports fans who feel betrayed when a player transfers to another team, or with fans of any celebrity who feel personally offended when that person does something unexpected. But in K-pop, where the industry has deliberately cultivated an image of accessibility and intimacy between idols and fans, the ownership feeling can become particularly intense. The jealousy that some fans feel when idols are revealed to be in romantic relationships is a direct product of this. It is not rational, and most fans who experience it know it is not rational, but it is real. When you have spent years watching someone's daily life through curated content, when you have followed their growth, celebrated their achievements, and felt genuine emotion over their struggles, the news that they are romantically involved with someone else can trigger a response that psychologically mirrors what happens in an actual relationship. That is how powerful parasocial bonds can become. Fan wars are another dark corner of fandom worth examining honestly. The intensity with which some fans defend their group against criticism or attack fans of competing groups comes from a psychological mechanism called in-group and out-group thinking. Basically, when your identity is strongly tied to belonging to a specific fandom, any criticism of that group feels like a criticism of you personally. Defending your group feels like defending yourself. And attacking a rival group feels like protecting your sense of worth and belonging. Add social media, which rewards the most extreme and emotional reactions with the most engagement, and you have a perfect environment for fan wars to escalate very quickly. Social media deserves its own honest discussion in this context because it has fundamentally changed what fandom looks like and what it does to people psychologically. Before social media, being a fan meant buying albums, going to concerts, maybe joining a fan club. The relationship was mostly one-directional and intermittent. Now, the content never stops. Idols post in real time. Fan accounts update constantly. Every new development, every rumor, every piece of news generates immediate waves of reaction across multiple platforms simultaneously. For someone whose emotional regulation depends heavily on what is happening with their favorite group, this constant stream of content means there is never really a moment to step back and breathe. The emotional highs and lows become more frequent, more intense, and harder to process. K-pop marketing understands this very well and uses it deliberately. The concept of fan service, which refers to content specifically designed to feel personal and emotionally intimate between idols and fans, is a core part of the business model. Fan meets where idols speak directly to individual fans, albums with photo card inclusions that make fans feel like they received something personal, reality shows that follow idols in supposedly unguarded moments. All of this is marketing. That does not make the emotions it generates less real. But it is worth being clear-eyed about the fact that the emotional attachment is being carefully cultivated by an industry that profits from it. In the Philippines, K-pop fandom has a particular flavor. Filipino fans are passionate, creative, and incredibly loyal. Fan communities here are often large, active, and genuinely supportive of each other in ways that go beyond just talking about music. They organize projects, fundraisers, charity events in the names of their idols, and real friendships form within those communities. That is genuinely beautiful. But the intensity of devotion can also tip into territory that is harder to defend, with some fans spending money they genuinely cannot afford, or prioritizing fandom activities over real-life responsibilities in ways that create real problems. The line between healthy support and unhealthy obsession is not always obvious, and it is different for every person. But some signs that fandom has crossed into territory worth examining honestly include spending money on idol-related content to the point of financial stress, feeling genuine anger or depression when an idol does something you disapprove of, spending more time in fandom spaces than in real-life social connections, feeling like your sense of self-worth is tied to how your favorite group is performing, and finding it difficult to think or talk about anything else consistently. None of these things make someone a bad person. They're signals that the fandom relationship may be filling a need that would be better addressed in other ways too. More real-life connection, more diverse sources of meaning and identity, possibly some honest reflection on what the fandom is providing that feels missing elsewhere. The healthiest version of being a K-pop fan, or a fan of anything, is one where the fandom adds something to a life that already has other meaningful things in it. Where the joy is real, but not all-consuming. Where you can celebrate your group's wins, feel disappointed at their losses, and still function fully in your own life, without either of those things derailing you. I am a fan. I plan to see BTS in concert, and I am genuinely working hard to make that happen. That excitement is real, and I am not embarrassed by it. But I also know who I am outside of that. And I think that is the key. Knowing who you are when the music stops. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, subscribe to help me hit my 2,000 video goal. This is my unfiltered diary of solo living in the Philippines, from the tough days in the ESL classroom to my journey learning Japanese and Korean. Yes, I am still a beginner. If you would like to support my work and my retirement fund, check out the Buy a Treat for My Pets link in the description. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next update. Thanks for being part of the journey.
See you then.